Former Chancellor Lord Lawson is to lead a Conservative group pushing for a referendum vote to leave the EU. The peer, who predicted the government would only secure wafer-thin reforms in its renegotiations, will be president of Conservatives for Britain. He said he would not share a platform with the rival Out campaign, UKIP-backed Leave.EU, but said all were welcome to rally to his group. Lord Lawson, Chancellor from 1983 to 1989, set out his pitch in the Times. He said he had accepted the position as President of Conservatives for Britain because he believed it was far more likely the government would be unable to secure the reforms it hoped for. In June, Prime Minister David Cameron launched his bid to renegotiate the UK's membership of the EU, saying British voters would not accept a rigid EU. Over-optimistic. Among the demands the government has called for are more power for national parliaments over EU decisions, restricting the rights of EU migrants to claim some benefits in the UK, and an opt-out from the ambition of ever closer union. Conservatives for Britain is led in the House of Commons by MP Steve Baker, and includes former ministers Owen Paterson and John Redwood. In his Times piece, Lord Lawson describes suggestions his group is jumping the gun by not waiting to see what reforms Mr. Cameron achieves as an over-optimistic calculation of the Prime Minister's chance of success. The peer also says if the argument for the UK's exit of the EU is not made now, then less moderate, xenophobic voices will dominate the debate and the campaign will fail. Lord Lawson writes, "A number of my colleagues in the Conservative Party are waiting to see what the Prime Minister negotiates before deciding which way they will vote or whether they will campaign for in or out. We cannot afford to wait that long. If we leave the playing field vacant, less moderate, xenophobic voices will dominate the debate and we will fail as soon as the government, the major political parties, the CBI and trade unions declare they are backing the In campaign." Speaking on BBC Radio 4's Today programme, he said there was no economic benefit to being in the EU. The union could not be changed without treaty change, which isn't going to be forthcoming as it requires unanimous agreement of other member states, he said. David Cameron has promised the referendum by the end of 2017, by which time he hopes to have reformed the UK's relationship with the EU. The official campaigns to remain and to leave, which will be designated by the Electoral Commission, will benefit from extra resources. The Commission says it will choose the campaign which represents to the greatest extent those campaigning for that outcome. Earlier this month, UKIP launched its own campaign for Britain to leave the EU, with leader Nigel Farage saying the campaign would get outside the confines of Westminster and reach real people. There is another no-campaign group called Leave.EU founded by former UKIP donor Aaron Banks. Asked whether he would share a platform with them, Lord Lawson told Today, "No. We welcome others to come and support us. We are not going to support anybody else, but we are open to all sorts of others from all parties and none to come and rally to the Conservatives for Britain group." Mr. Cameron, Chancellor George Osborne and Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond have all been engaged in diplomatic talks on the UK's relationship with the EU. The European Council's Donald Tusk said there was a will to help the UK, but he has previously said that values such as the freedom of movement to live and work within the UK were not for sale.